Science, the new religion. In the modern world, science is revered as the ultimate path to truth. It is objective, empirical, self-correcting, a method beyond belief, bias, or dogma. But beneath its sterile instruments and peer-reviewed journals lies something curiously familiar. Science, in its structure and dogmatic boundaries, mirrors the very institution it once rose to challenge: religion. Like all major religions, science offers a comprehensive system of belief about existence, meaning, and truth. Both science and religion propose a complete narrative of the world, from its origin to its destiny, and both inspire deep conviction, ethical imperatives, and communal identity. Religion provides people with answers to existential questions. Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? How should we behave? It offers comfort, order, and a framework of cause and consequence. Science, too, offers structure. It explains the physical world, provides mechanisms, and orders reality through laws and theories. Over time, for many, it has become not just a method of inquiry, but a belief system, a world-view that replaces the spiritual with the material, the divine with the empirical. Historically, science and religion coexisted. Many early scientists, Newton, Galileo, Kepler, were deeply religious. They pursued science not in spite of their faith, but because of it. They believed that by studying nature, they were uncovering the handiwork of God. Yet, in its early phases, science was practiced cautiously, often in secret, because it threatened ecclesiastical authority. Religion at times viewed science as heresy. As scientific discoveries mounted and explanatory power grew, the balance shifted. Darwin's theory of evolution challenged the idea of divine creation. The Big Bang suggested a beginning, but also raised the question, what came before? Slowly, science matured into a worldview that not only explained phenomena, but implicitly denied the need for divine causation. It became, for many, the new faith. And just like any faith, it carries its own absolutes. There are striking similarities between science and religion in their fundamentals, such as belief, heresy, authority, conversion, and the ultimate question of origin. Science, in excluding the possibility of intelligent design at life's origin, has created a metaphysical dilemma, one that mirrors the same existential stakes as the religious traditions it sought to replace. Religion is built upon a foundational truth, that God exists, created the world, and imbued it with purpose. Every teaching, moral directive, and theological doctrine flows from this singular premise. Remove it and the structure collapses. Science, though it claims to be agnostic or neutral, rests on its own immovable pillar: methodological naturalism, the idea that everything must be explained by natural causes alone. The moment a scientist invokes a cause outside of nature, say intelligence without physical origin, science refuses to engage. It doesn't disprove it. It simply declares such questions off-limits. So while religion begins with belief in God, science ends with the necessity that God not exist. In this way, science and religion are not opposites, they are mirror images, each defined by the boundaries they will not cross. Every belief system has boundaries. In religion, they are called heresies, ideas that threaten the integrity of faith. In science, the equivalent is pseudoscience or unscientific speculation. The results are the same: excommunication. During the Inquisition, non-believers were tortured or forced to convert. Colonial empires imposed Christianity on indigenous populations. Belief was not always a choice, it was enforced. In modern science, punishment takes different forms: ridicule, loss of credibility, grant rejections, termination of tenure. Consider those who proposed intelligent design to the universe or criticized materialist assumptions in neuroscience or biology. Their ideas are not refuted with dialogue, but rejected by default as non-scientific. One striking example is Guillermo González, a tenured astrophysicist who lost his position after supporting intelligent design. Another is Francis Collins, a devout Christian and former director of the NIH, who carefully separates his religious convictions from his scientific claims to avoid controversy. The line is clear. Once you introduce non-material explanations, you're out. In religion, prophets speak truths that followers accept without verification. Moses received the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. Jesus spoke in parables about heaven and the kingdom of God. These words became sacred, not because everyone witnessed them, but because they were trusted. Science claims to be different. But how many people have personally verified that the Earth orbits the Sun? That electrons exist? That DNA codes for proteins? The average person accepts these truths not through observation, but through trust in scientific authority. We are taught that the Earth is round, that atoms are made of quarks, and that black holes exist millions of light years away. These may all be true, but we don't know them in any direct way. We believe them because scientific prophets, physicists, biologists, astronomers tell us so. The public relationship to science is faith-based in practice, even if evidence-based in theory. Conversion in religion is a change of heart, a shift to a new foundation of truth. To convert is to reorganize your view of reality around a divine presence. Apostasy, then, is the abandonment of that framework. In science, one can move from one theory to another, classical to quantum mechanics, Newton to Einstein. But there is a line that, once crossed, removes one from the scientific community altogether: belief in intelligent origin. To say, "I believe life was designed," is to commit scientific apostasy. You are no longer a scientist regardless of your credentials. You are now a believer, a creationist, or worse, an anti-science heretic. This gatekeeping is defended on the grounds of method, but its effect is cultural. Science is no longer simply a method. It is an identity, and to challenge its boundaries is to lose your place in the tribe. The central question: did life begin by accident or intention? This is the greatest scientific dilemma, the ultimate to be or not to be of modern science. Religion claims that God created man from the earth. Genesis describes God forming Adam from dust and breathing a soul into his nostrils. Life in this view is deliberate, divinely authored. Science posits a different origin. Life began when non-living chemicals, through random interaction and energy-driven reactions, formed self-replicating molecules like RNA. Eventually, DNA emerged, a molecule that stores coded instructions for building and maintaining life. DNA was discovered by Watson and Crick in 1953. Later it became clear that DNA contains information, a language of 4 bases, A, T, C, G, that dictate protein synthesis. It's a code, and codes imply design. This raises a serious question. If DNA is a code, who wrote it? If it contains instructions, who encoded them? Can a random chemical reaction write a self-replicating script? Science says yes, but has never replicated it. There are no fossils of pre-life chemical codes, no intermediate steps, no record of random molecules evolving into data-bearing systems. Instead, science clings to the belief that the answer must be natural, for to admit otherwise is to surrender its status as an explanatory framework. If the origin of life was intelligent, then science is not sovereign. It becomes a tool, not a master. This is where science faces its existential crisis. If it allows for a designer, it unravels itself. Like religion without God, Science without chance-based origins ceases to exist. Science was once humble. It focused on the how, leaving the why to philosophy or theology. But as its authority grew, so did its ambition. In denying God, it claimed not just method but meaning. Yet today, science is stagnating. Physics has collided with the limits of what particles can tell us. Biology cannot explain consciousness. Cosmology offers speculation without observation. The more science has advanced, the more it seems to run into silence at the edges of the unknown. This stagnation leaves a vacuum, not just of progress, but of purpose. For those who left religion behind in favor of science, the promise was clarity, a full, coherent explanation of who we are, where we came from, and why we're here. But when that promise stalls, when science can only tell us how, but never why, people are left suspended in the same old questions, with no ground beneath them. And people, regardless of what they believe, are still human. They still yearn for meaning, order, reassurance. They still seek moral structure, cosmic justice, and some kind of narrative that explains their suffering, their hopes, and their fears. If science cannot fill that void, they will turn elsewhere. Some return to traditional religion. Others unconsciously revive older, more primal forms of belief, rituals that once governed our relationship with the natural world. And one of the clearest examples of this is found in climate change. In the modern climate movement, we see unmistakable religious structures: apocalypse, climate catastrophe, redemption, green energy, and even sacred rituals, recycling, veganism, carbon offsets. Nature becomes not just an ecosystem, but a moral agent, Mother Earth, who rewards or punishes human behavior. What we're witnessing is a re-enchantment of the world through science, not in spite of it. People no longer pray for rain, but they change their behavior in fear that the climate will retaliate. They sacrifice convenience, meat, air travel, not to a deity, but to the earth itself. The logic is the same. We anger the higher power, and we suffer the consequences. This is not to dismiss climate science itself, which rests on data and models. But the cultural response to climate change, among the public and politicians alike, reveals how science has morphed into something more than empirical. It has become existential. It provides purpose, identity, and community. It answers to the deep need for connection with forces larger than ourselves. In the void left by metaphysical silence, the climate movement has become a new religion of consequence, complete with its own cosmology, ethics, heresies, and prophets. But in doing so, science has betrayed its roots. Science was never meant to believe, only to investigate. And in defining itself by what it must reject, it has become a religion. Not because it worships, but because it cannot allow the possibility of what lies beyond. Science has given us tools, technology, and insight. But it cannot answer the deepest question: why is there something rather than nothing? And until it can ask that question freely, without fear of excommunication, it remains not a method of truth, but a doctrine of exclusion.